Hello and welcome to the CadenCenter. It's time for another This Week in Sports. Today we have our NBA off-season special. There's a lot going on and a lot that probably will go on, and I'm here to break it all down and give my thoughts on it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what the whole NBA world is talking about, and that is Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. It's been a big saga, so let's just go back to the start of the offseason. Kyrie Irving reports came out that he was unhappy in Brooklyn. He wanted to leave, and it was kind of left at that. People thought, okay, he's going to opt out and he's going to go through a sign-in trade, but then he opted into his contract. So all of a sudden everyone thought, okay, maybe Brooklyn is restored. But then, like hours later, we find out that Kevin Durant requested a trade to the Brooklyn Nets owner, which then opened the door up again for Kyrie to leave. So now we are left with Kevin Durant requesting a trade and Kyrie Irving, who opted in now on a one-year deal, and it looks like he will most likely be traded as well. Now, there have been talks of possibly them being packaged together in a three-team deal. The main suitor and only suitor it seems to be for Kyrie Irving is the Lakers. And I'll talk about that first, especially as a Laker fan. Obviously, I do want Kyrie Irving. The deal would have to basically be Kyrie and either Joe Harris or Seth Curry for probably like Russell Westbrook, THT, and the 2027 and 2029 first-round picks that the Lakers have left that they can trade. Obviously, that would be a huge win for the Lakers. There is some talks of how the Lakers are talking to the Nets like, hey, we want Seth and not Joe Harris. And that can't be a deal breaker for the Lakers. There's no way that you can get Kyrie Irving, the guy that won a championship with LeBron. They took down the Warriors together. The Warriors just won a championship. They look as strong as ever. You can't let Joe Harris or Seth Curry be the deal breaker. You take whoever the Nets tell you, you get off Russ's contract, you get a superstar. I know Kyrie has had a lot of off-the-court issues, which is probably why the Lakers are his only suitor, but the one star that Kyrie has been chill and has just dominated with is LeBron. The Celtics didn't go well. Brooklyn, KD and Harden didn't go well, but LeBron seems to be the guy that can work out. As for KD, if Kevin Durant gets traded, it is definitely going to be the biggest trade package in NBA history. I mean, we've seen Rudy Gobert get 4 first-round picks when he was traded, which I'll talk about a little later. So, I mean, what is he going to get? 6, 8, 10? I mean, I don't know. I think the Durant will come in a 3-team trade. I don't know if Kyrie will be included, but the Nets are going to want a lot of picks. The main talk or team that's been talked about getting KD is the Suns. However, the Nets are like, hey, we're not taking KD unless we get Booker, which is smart because the Nets are trading a top 3 player. You could ask some people to say he's the best player in the NBA right now. You should get the other team's best player back. You don't want to take a deal for DeAndre Ayton, a center who hasn't proved he can really do much without Chris Paul and Mikal Bridges. You should want Booker and Mikal, or Booker and Ayton. You should be making sure you're getting good value back. Worst comes to worst, maybe he's stuck on your team. Kevin Durant's not the worst guy to have stuck on your team. Maybe if he sits out, that's definitely not ideal, but there are multiple suitors. There's also the Miami Heat, who we know have that young core and still lots of picks to trade, but they're rumored with every superstar, and they never seem to pull the trigger. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. There was reports that maybe Kyrie would have been shipped out by Sunday, which is today, but it seems like that's not happening. Maybe it will happen soon. I think KD's process will take a little longer just because of how much has to go into it and how much negotiations have to be done because of the high price he has. But we'll see where those two end up. But now, let's get to the deals that have happened. I'm all basically in order of what was tweeted out by Shams and Woj. So I'm going to give my take on each of the important ones and how they change it. And we really started off with a Woj bomb. We heard DeJounte Murray was traded to the Hawks for 3 first-round picks, a pick swap, and Danilo Gallinari. And for the Hawks, this is a very key trade because DeJounte Murray, you can now put him alongside Trae Young, and he complements him perfectly. DeJounte can handle the ball, which allows Trae to play off ball more. And catch and shoot, Trae Young, that percentage, his efficiency will go up. And as well on the defensive end, we know Trae is probably like a bottom 10 defender in the league. DeJounte Murray, meanwhile, is one of the best defensive point guards in the league who's always hustling. So DeJounte really emphasizes Trae's strengths and hides Trae's weaknesses, which I think is going to make the Hawks very deadly. I don't think this puts him over the top as a very elite tier 1 contender. I think definitely John Collins' health and whether he can play will matter. We'll see what other things they try to do. But I think the Hawks definitely did get better, and they should be able to somewhat compete in these. But like I said, still think they are a piece away. And then we got our second deal, which is what everybody has been clowning this team for. The Knicks signing Jalen Brunson to a 4-year, $110 million deal. Yes, the Knicks made about 3 trades, I think, including trades with multiple picks to get the cap space to sign Jalen Brunson. And I mean, the Knicks are in that weird spot where, like, okay, we're not going to get a superstar. We could draft these young guys, but, like, we're not trying to keep losing because, we're New York's market. They want us to win. So they went and get Jalen Brunson. I mean, sure, maybe they'll make the play-in now. It's just a weird deal. You hang on to 4 years. We haven't seen him really outside, because we know when you're playing along with Luka Doncic like Jalen Brunson was in Dallas, you're going to look better because you're not getting all the defensive attention. Now Brunson's going to get more defensive attention, and while I think he is one of the filthiest players in the league, his bag is insane. But with more defenses closing in on him and now game planning for him, I think the efficiency may go down, but the volume will go up, and I don't think that's what the Knicks want. So it's an interesting deal. We'll see how it works out, but yeah, man, the Knicks overpaying a player, it's not the first time or the last time we will see this. As we move on to a contender getting a key pickup, it is a 76ers getting PJ Tucker. And this deal, all the thanks should go to James Harden, because James Harden also got them Daniel House, who I've written down here. So the little reunion in Philly there, and PJ Tucker will be a huge key. Obviously the 76ers already had some defensive specialists in Danny Green and Matisse Thybulle, but they were either limited, or obviously Thybulle is offense. It's like playing 4-on-5 when Thybulle's on offense. So PJ Tucker he's going to sit in the corner. He's going to watch Joel Embiid post up, James Harden ISO, drop 30, all that fun stuff. And he's going to come back and he's going to guard the best team's player. He can guard the Giannis's. He can guard the Kevin Durant's. Especially if Durant stays in the East and they need him in a later playoff series. This is a huge pickup for the 76ers. Harden taking a pay cut. Obviously, we don't know the official deals yet, but he opted out and is taking a pay cut so they could sign people like PJ Tucker. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. The Philly is obviously all in on really the length of Tucker's contract, which is 3 years. But really this year specifically, I think they should expect to win. So we'll see how that goes. That is a huge pickup for them as they add some 3-and-D, and we know 3-and-D wings. That's what wins you championships, along with your superstars. As we move on to our next deal, which was Malik Monk going to Sacramento, and as a Lakers fan, this really hurt me. There are rumors about that Malik would take less if the Lakers offered him their MLE. He'd take less money with them rather than a team that paid him more. It looks like Sacramento's offer was a little too high for him to say no. Which is unfortunate, because it's not like Sacramento's going to come back and beat us in the playoffs. They're not going to really do much. So he signs there for 2 years, $19 million. This is, obviously a big hurt for the Lakers, but hopefully, his replacement, if you will be Kyrie Irving. But Sacramento, getting those young guys, we'll see what he can do. I think Malik will have another big season, and I'm sure he'll get a bag after that 2 years expires. As we move on to the Milwaukee Bucks getting Joe Ingles for 1 year, $6.5 million. Another contender getting a solid 3-and-D like role player. Ingles can also handle the ball, which will definitely help if they want to put Giannis pick and roll situations, make him not have to have the ball and go the length of the floor every single possession. So I think Ingles will fit along well with that squad. I don't know, whether they'll have him off the bench. It'll probably just depend. Obviously, we know Chris Middleton tends to be a little injury prone. So if he gets injured in the playoffs, maybe you have that depth that you didn't have last year, and you could throw Ingles on there. So I think that's a good move. They get more shooting, which you always love around Giannis. And the Bucks look like they are poised to go for another championship this year. As we move back to the Lakers, who signed Damian Jones for 2 years. And everyone remembers this past year, they signed Damian Jones on a 10-day contract. I think 3 10-day contracts, actually, but didn't actually end up signing him all the way. And, he going into free agency, I think the Lakers wanted a guy like Mo Bamba or Thomas Bryant, who's still rumored to maybe go there, who could stretch the floor. However, they also did want versatility and length, and that's what Damian Jones gives them. He is a lob threat. You're not going to ask him to go post up and, give you 20. You just want him to catch lobs, set screens, and get rebounds. That's all he's got to do. He's young. He's really a hustler. Like, he'll want to be in there, and that's good because this Lakers team we know was old last year, and more energy will make it better for them. And we'll stay with the Lakers here, as they also signed just minutes later Lonnie Walker and Troy Brown Jr. Troy Brown Jr. probably don't see him getting too many minutes, but Lonnie Walker is an interesting player. He has shot about 34% from 3 in his career, which is unideal. However, sometimes when you're playing next to LeBron and Anthony Davis and maybe even Kyrie Irving, your value's going to go up. He's young. Again, Lakers getting young pieces. They decided not to make a retirement home this season. I saw a tweet, it was more like a daycare. So it's definitely a better choice to go with Lonnie than another old guy. So that is a good move for the Lakers. However, Lonnie doesn't give them much length. He's only, I think, 6'4", 6'5". So the Lakers, I'm sure, are still looking to get a little more length to guard, like I said, what the Sixers got with PJ Tucker. They got a guy who can guard KD, and all that stuff. So we'll see where they go from there. And then we also got another deal staying in the Western Conference with the Dallas Mavericks getting their center. Obviously, they got Christian Wood, but Christian Wood's more of a power forward. They got JaVale McGee. And JaVale McGee, he has been, wherever he has went, he's like the ultimate role player. Like one of the best role players, really, for a championship team. He grabs boards. He solved the Suns' rebound issues last year. Obviously, they didn't go all the way because they just collapsed. But, it wasn't his fault. And then Dallas is going to do the same. Pick and rolls with Luka. And he does what I said Damian Jones is going to do for the Lakers. He's going to catch lobs, get rebounds, and set screens. That's all he needs to do, and I think he's going to do it very well. That is a huge pickup for Mark Cuban and the Dallas Mavericks. And I don't think the Mavericks are done yet this free agency because I just saw before starting this that Mark Cuban liked a bunch of tweets that were hating on him for not re-signing Goran Dragic, which makes me think, he's cooking up those receipts for if he trades for someone. I don't know if it's going to be one of the big fish in KD or Kyrie, but it definitely seems like Mark Cuban may be up to something. As we move on to the Timberwolves, who obviously made the big deal for Rudy Gobert, but before that, they signed Kyle Anderson, a.k.a. Slow-Mo, which I think is the best nickname in the NBA, for 2 years, $18 million. Now, Kyle Anderson and Rudy Gobert on the floor together, I don't know about that, but Anderson can defend. He has length. He can even play make a little bit. But like I said, the shooting will be a little tough. But we'll see how it goes. Obviously, they take him away from the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies, they did trade Melton, and now they're losing Anderson. So, when you got a bunch of guys on rookie deals, they're going to break up. So we see the Grizzlies core breaking up a little bit here. But Slow-Mo going to the Timberwolves, who made some big retool moves this offseason. As we see another inside center in Andre Drummond, he decided to go to the Chicago Bulls on a 2-year, $6.6 million deal. Obviously, Nikola Vucevic, who's a Bulls starting center. He's more of a stretch-the-floor guy, not as good of a defender, kind of struggled this year. Drummond is the exact opposite. He's an inside guy who's going to get rebounds. He can defend the paint. Obviously, he's not a stretch or anything, but Vucevic gives him that. So it's a nice little opposite. You put in Vucevic if you need to stretch big. If you don't need to stretch the floor, you can put in Drummond. You're going to get a nice 10-10 game out of him, 15-10, whatever you need. So it's definitely a good signing for Chicago. I still don't think Chicago has that extra piece. I don't know what the extra piece is, but it just doesn't feel like they have what they need. Obviously, they've been rumored with the KD deals, but I assume that would take giving up DeMar Levine, which may not be in the books. But for now, this is a good pickup. Hopefully, they can avoid injuries and try to make a run this year, because you never know. When you have Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, you got a lot of offense. Anything can happen. As we move on to a team who also has a lot of offense but needs to improve their defense, and they did with this pickup, the Portland Trailblazers signed Gary Payton II, 3 years, $28 million deal, and all $28 million are thanks to this past year. Gary Payton coming onto the scene for the championship Warriors, playing key minutes, guarding the team's best perimeter player, obviously guarded John Morant before he got hurt in the playoffs. 3 years, $20 million may be a little bit of an overpay. Yes, but the point guard market prices are inflated, even though GP2 is more of a two guard. But I do think it's a little bit overpaid just because he won the ring, but we'll see. I think the Blazers, they just need defense. That's been why Dame hasn't got a ring. They don't have any defense. So hopefully he can help them, and Damon and Gary Payton II can play well together. As we move up north to the Toronto Raptors, who have also been rumored in the KD deals. But for now, they settled for Otto Porter Jr. on a 2-year deal. The Raptors, this deal may not seem significant to some, but I think the Raptors are a very interesting team. You have Fred VanVleet, who played at an all-star level. You have Scotty Barnes, who's one of the most, or will be one of the most versatile players in the league. He can defend, play make, tall, lengthy. So I think Otto Porter Jr., a veteran, he just won a championship. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of these Warriors guys get bags because of that. He's going to stretch the floor for a team that didn't have that many shooters. Precious Achua for the Raptors have been trying to develop his three-point shot. But now they get a guy who can play the four that can stretch the floor better for the team, which is huge, especially when they like to run small ball 5 with Pascal Siakam there. As we move to a trade here, and this one was a big one for the runner-up of this past season. Malcolm Brogdon was sent to the Boston Celtics for Daniel Tice, Aaron Nesmith, first-round picks. And for the Celtics, going into last season, the thing was Marcus Smart isn't a pure point guard. They need a real playmaker. Well, Malcolm Brogdon is a real playmaker, and while reports have been that he's going to be a sixth man and not start, it's still huge for them because, you want Marcus Smart to be focused on the defensive end. Marcus Smart definitely showed strides, and I feel like that's something he does get credit for. He definitely showed strides in the ability to play make, and he had a couple high assist games there in playoffs and games that mattered. So I think getting Brogdon is still important because you're asking less of Smart. They didn't really give up much. Tyson Nesmith, obviously Nesmith a young guy, but it didn't seem like it was going to become much picks. Oh, well, it was only one first-round pick, so we'll see what they can do. I think this definitely strengthens the Celtics' chances to get out of the East again. And we know Brogdon, who shot, I think, around like 34% from three this past season. However, when he was with the Bucks, he was a 40% three-point shooter when he was around other stars. So expect those numbers to go up. And this deal, may be the X factor in whether the Celtics win the championship next year or not, or maybe even get out of the East, because it will be strengthened with the Bucks fully healthy and stuff like that. And then we have the last blockbuster so far. I'm sure there's lots to come. We had Rudy Gobert going to the Timberwolves, as I mentioned, for 4 first-round picks, Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt, and Patrick Beverley. And that means we're going to see a lineup of Karl-Anthony Towns at the 4 and Rudy Gobert at the 5. And in the regular season, I think the Timberwolves are going to look really good. And then the playoffs will come, and we'll see why the Jazz couldn't win. It's because Rudy Gobert, you can't put him out on the floor in crunch time in a playoff game because he can't defend the perimeter. We saw a couple of years ago, he was on Terrence Mann, and Terrence Mann looked like Michael Jordan, open threes, dunks. It's so tough when your center is supposed to be a DPOY. He can't defend past like 6 feet beyond the basket. You just can't do that in the modern day NBA where everybody can shoot and is running small ball with 5 shooters. So I think in the regular season this will be good for them, but ultimately it'll prove to be a pretty bad deal. Jared Vanderbilt was a gritty guy for them. He's more of an old school type player getting boards, but he worked next to Cat because Cat could stretch the floor, so Jared Vanderbilt could be chilling in the dunker spot and in the paint. Patrick Beverley, obviously what an era it was of the one play and win. So those memes unfortunately have to go to rest. But I don't know about this deal. I think the Timberwolves maybe had to shake something up, but paying D'Angelo Russell over $30 million, paying Rudy Gobert over $30 million may not be worth it. We'll see how that works out, but I don't think come playoff time it'll look that good. As we go to the defending champions, the last notable deal here is Dante DiVincenzo to the Golden State Warriors, 2 years, $9.3 million. Now, there's some word that I've heard that DiVincenzo's a little overrated, low basketball IQ and all that stuff, but when I think of the Warriors, development and all that all those things are fixable. And DiVincenzo, at the end of the day, can be a very good 3-and-D guy. Played for the Bucks, obviously got hurt during the championship run, but is still a champion nonetheless. I really think he will fit extremely well. Obviously, Klay Thompson, after his injury, isn't the same defender he once was. Showed flashes, but obviously you don't want to put too much strain on him. Dante DiVincenzo can guard the guy that Klay would usually guard sometimes, especially those quick guards. So I think this is a good deal for them. Obviously, DiVincenzo wanted out of Sacramento. There was a lot of drama there. So Golden State did a good job. You're only going to pay him $4 million a year. What's there to lose? So another great deal for Golden State. You hate to see him reload, but that's what they do. That's why they're a dynasty. And that's what's happened here. So that's all the deals I have. And obviously, I left out all the re-signing and the max extensions for guys like John Morant, Bradley Beal. I just wanted to focus on the shifts in the league and what players change teams. So that is all for now. I'm sure within the next week, we'll see Kyrie Irving possibly moved, Kevin Durant possibly moved. Who knows what also happened in those 3-team deals. But for now, that is all. And I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.